We got our first mailbag of the 2025 season here on the call up. You got Aram Layton, Jack McMullen from Los Angeles. How's the time difference treating you, man? I know that was a late one for you last night.
Yeah, a little beat up. I get back to the hotel. I'm like, wow, I can't wait to go to bed. I wake up and I have multiple texts. Where is the Just Baseball show today? And I was like, oh, that's an issue. So popped up, realized I forgot to edit the audio. That's how it's treating me right now. But it's been cool, man. First time at Dodger Stadium yesterday. It was that was like a pinch me moment. Just kind of looking out, opening up the storm door on the booth and just seeing that view from Dodger Stadium. That was silly. And like the San Gabriel mountain range in the back too. You're supposed to only see that stuff on TV, but you got it here. And I was like, well, okay, cool.
And you painted a beautiful picture for us on radio. It's funny. I actually regret I was living vicariously through you on that, because it's just like, this is your first call at Dodger Stadium. It's going to be sweet. And you can switch the audio over on MLB TV. But I honestly kind of regret staying up for the whole game too now, because I felt it a little bit this morning as well. But no, man, it's been really cool just kind of following you around on the journey of these different ballparks. But that was one that the second we talked before, I'm like, yeah, that's going to be one that hits different when you walk in there. And sure enough, it did. But we're here to talk prospects, and we will talk about some Dodgers prospects here and there. But a lot of awesome questions. If you're wondering why you didn't see like a mailbag post, part of just wanting to add some value and continuing to add just an engagement aspect to the Discord, this is that's the area for the mailbag questions to be asked now. So we're going to probably continue to field the mailbag questions from the subscribers in the Discord, but we'll probably do one outside of it here and there as well. But just wanted to let you know in advance, like if you want to be able to ask those questions for future mailbags, things like that, we would love to have you in the Discord. And for those that are supporting the Discord and then ask the questions, thank you so much. We did a box break yesterday of 2024 Bowman Draft and a couple other products. That was a blast. And always answering questions and talking ball in there all the time. But we wanted to be able to guarantee some mailbag questions being asked and answered from the Discord there. So we got a handful of really good ones.
Yeah, well, and the Discord, I will say just at the outset, has been amazing. And like I popped in there and, gone on like these stretches of just little impromptu Q&As. And it's so much fun to interact with the people that are supporting us in there. And hey, it's a phenomenal community, and there are a bunch of different subsets within the community. Like we pull all of these from the call up channel, but then there's also, and I'm learning Discord now too, there are like MLB chats channel. Like if you want to do non-MLB betting stuff, like there's a channel for that in there too. Somebody made a dynasty league. Like
we've got the cards chat. I'm talking about what cards I'm picking up in there, which has been really fun. And then of course the breaks chat, where every time I can get my hands on product, they say, hey, what do you guys want me to break? And we set that up. So it's really cool, because it's like whatever type of baseball fan you are, there's something there for you. But on top of that, we wanted to kind of integrate the mailbag aspect with that as well. And if we didn't get to one, if you're a Discord subscriber and we didn't get to your question in this episode, I'm going to answer it later on today in the Discord anyways. But you pulled some really good ones, Jack. And they're good ones when we have to delay the recording a few minutes for me to like dig into some research, because a lot of times I'll just like go off the top and we'll talk about it. I had to research some of these. So that's when it's going to be fun.
100%. And let's start with a really good one from Big Red Analytics via Discord. I know we've already seen this have some impact, but what kind of impact will an increase in video and data in the lower levels in college sports have on prospect analysis? Do you think it will lower the number of prep guys getting drafted as they don't have as much data? Colleges going for transfer portal over recruits help spark this. It's a really good question. And I know that data points in college are a driving factor in some like SEC schools, ACC schools pursuing mid-major guys. You have True Media and what's the other thing that they use in college called? Not
Synergy.
Synergy. Yeah, exactly. Like True Media and Synergy. A lot of that will kind of help cycle through and sift through the mid-major arms in particular, where it's like, hey, I want this kid to throw. I want a kid that, throws 94 to 96 and the slider have these characteristics. Okay, let's go grab that kid in the portal. I think it's probably only making your job easier, right?
Yes. And I was about to say that if I was ever tasked with the job of just like being a major school like recruiter and you're just trying to pluck guys from mid-major teams, I think that would be the easiest job in the world. Like, because they stand out so much. But before it was hard because you wouldn't have maybe the data from a mid-major school or, maybe even further a Division II school. You may not have, TrackMan set up there or really anything set up there, but so many of these schools have it now. If I were a mid-major school, I'd almost be incentivized to not have it. I'm just like, hey, you're going to have to come here and watch our guys and count the RPM if you want to pluck my guys from me. But no, it does make life so much easier because especially in college, the mid-major teams, things like that, it's a lot easier to stand out. And instead of just going off of sheer velocity, you can now look at guys and say like, hey, this is a tall, lanky kid that was overlooked and under-recruited, but gets great vert on his fastball. Look at the spin rates that he's getting. Like, let's bring him over here and get him in an LSU weight program. Like, those are the things, too, that you're able to do where you can see the pitch characteristics. I'm going to get more into that in question number 2 because that's my big focus on that. But then when you also just look at it in terms of, like, general prospect analysis, I'm a big proponent. We've talked about this of being able to go in person and watch players play. Like, I think that's kind of the final piece of your assessment on a player. But the reality is there is no better way to be able to get an idea of what a guy can do as a hitter and as a defender and everything than video. Because unless I want to follow this guy around for 100 games, I can just watch those 100 games if you have access to the video. And I mean, these teams and front offices, whatever it may be, they've got open side video. They've got the wide angle for defensive video. They've got behind home plate. They've got everything. So why go there and just sit there with my eyeballs for 100 games when I could do that at the end to just check and confirm some things, but be able to watch in exponentially more at-bats, reps, and everything like that. And I could queue up, okay, well, how is he against fastballs? I could queue up all the pitches that were 93 plus and watch those. So the answer is it changes everything, but it's also you need to have the infrastructure to be able to do it. And it's shocking that a lot of front offices still don't leverage this. Like I'm rocking my Just Baseball Rockies shirt. I would venture to say they don't leverage having, even if and they could have that availability really easily. I don't know if they leverage having those resources, and which is, I think some college teams may leverage it more.
But what a lot of, college scouts and some pro scouts will do is still toss the toothpick in their mouth and say, you know what? Guy looks a little different. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guys that I like. That's my baseball.
Which you can do that at the end, right? Like where it's like, I found the guy with the data points. I watched the video. Now I'm going to go watch him in person and solidify my hypothesis on this player. But, I'll take 100 ABs on video over 15 ABs in person any day of the week. I mean, it's just so much more you can get out of it.
I understand. All right. This one comes to us from Vixed in Discord. What are your best pitching stats to and from college kids to project major league success? So college pitching numbers. I know there are some, deeper characteristics that you want to get into. I will say very simply from just a stat watching thing with college guys, when you're looking at first round college arms, I think watching is actually really important.
Yeah, that's really pitching. Important. Pitching's a lot different in terms of you gotta at the college level watch how these guys move because
you gotta watch how they move.
Trying to unlock more.
Yeah, you got to see. Okay, are you projectable? Do you move in a clean way? How does the arsenal work? How could the arsenal adjust to work a little bit better? In terms of an actual number, as weird as it sounds, I think strikeout to walk rate is huge.
Yeah.
I think the best college arms and the ones that are going to correlate to immediate professional success are the guys that strike a lot of dudes out and don't walk a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got to have a sub-3 ERA. That helps. But strikeout to walk is something that I really look at personally.
Strikeout to walk it's so simple, but it's I think so simple that it's become overlooked because we have so many advanced stats and so many different things that we look at that generally do give us more information. But there's been some research done, and I think it's pretty funny that with all the advanced stats that we have, there may not be a better correlator to success than just K minus BB. So it's just one of those things. But of course, there's a lot of things that go into strikeout minus walk. I when it comes to later round arms, then you start to move the goalposts where I don't really care about the numbers as much. You're looking at data. Because you're trying to find value. Like if he had a great strikeout minus walk rate, he would have been a first round pick. So with the later guys, like that's where you see the Mariners drafting dudes that had like 10 ERAs, but they see the pitch characteristics, the shapes, things like that, and they can unlock more. But I think it's also looking at the archetype of the pitcher too, right? Where okay, it's a guy that doesn't walk a ton of dudes at all. Like the big, I think, edge for him is that he pounds the strike zone. Well, how many bats is he missing? Can you dream on more stuff? Like I think it's important to put each pitcher kind of into like an archetype as well. And it's like, what kind of guy is this, and where can he progress from there? Because if it's a guy that's not striking out a lot of dudes, well, then I want to see a high ground ball rate, and I want to see not a lot of walks. If it's a guy that's striking out a ton of dudes, maybe I'm not going to be worried about the type of contact as much that is being yielded against him. Maybe I can pallet the walks a little bit more. So I think it's looking at the type of pitcher and then kind of putting him into a bucket and then saying, like, what's the best way this type of pitcher, what's the version of success for him at the professional ranks? But to keep it on the surface, because I know, there's only so much available. At the end of the day, strikeouts, man, because like guys, there's been so many guys in college that cannot freaking find the zone, and then they get to the pro ranks and they find the zone. So like if I had to pick one thing, like give me the guy that strikes out the world, and we'll try to get him right from there. But then you also have people that like to draft the command guys and hope that they can get more out of them too. So in that sense, you're then looking at, you want to try to find someone that has projection physically. Like I think about a Tanner Bybee. And Tanner, like, first of all, awesome dude. Like, he was kind of skinnier in college. He's not the biggest dude in the world, but you looked at his delivery, he's 6'2", kind of a little bit more wiry at the time. And you could say, okay, that guy he has more velo in there. Like, there's going to be more that you can squeeze out. And that's exactly what happened after he was drafted, in the quote unquote middle rounds. So I think it depends on what you're looking at, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna go after the guy that's getting the most swing and miss.
Yeah, like I think about a kid like Parker Messick at Florida State, and obviously same organization with the Cleveland Guardians, but the Guardian model is you take pitchability guys and you kind of have them tick up stuff-wise. And I know that there are some organizations that feel like they can help teach enhanced stuff now, and that wasn't a thing a decade ago.
No,
it was not a thing 10 years ago. It is a thing now. And, what did we hear when we were growing up? We both graduated high school in 2016. It's, you can't teach 100. You can't teach a guy how to throw strikes. Now, we're getting close to the exact opposite, where it's becoming really hard to teach guys to throw strikes because it's really an intent thing, and you feel like you can teach an optimized arsenal. Obviously, you have to have a lot of arm talent, but if you have the resources within an organization to help a guy tick up, you may see a Quinn Matthews taken.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there are plenty of examples of guys like that were just out-getters in college, and you say, how is this guy any good?
Yeah,
it's because the stuff got better.
Yeah, and I think that's where you get to round 2, 3, 4. That's where I think I'm more comfortable taking the command guys. But if I'm taking an arm in the first round, I'm okay with a little bit of variance in the command. I want you striking out the world, and that's where it's kind of moving those goalposts depending on what you're looking for and what rounds.
Sure. Okay, let's go to complex standouts here. And this question comes to us from SMH. Shake my head. I believe the ACL and FCL league starts this coming month. What players should we watch to get promoted fast? So really it is the complex players that you have your eye on here, whether they were awesome in the DSL or awesome in the complex last year, that you feel like could get a quick bump to low A.
I mean, I'm definitely going to miss some because there's so many players, and I wanted to kind of just highlight some outside, maybe the obvious, because I know like people are going to be looking at like Emil Morales and things like that, but I actually think might be a little bit more of a process for a guy like that in the Dodger system. Start with the Marlin. I know a guy that you've probably heard a little bit of buzz about is Luis Kova. I was impressed watching him on the backfields because a lot of these guys I haven't had a chance to see yet, and even video is quite limited. But Kova had a nice year in the DSL. Outfielder who's he's just polished for his age. Doesn't chase, good feel to hit, can definitely motor, and can play a good center field. So I think Kova is a guy that they'll probably move pretty quickly Looking at the way that I know the Salas family is a little bit different. There's the expectations of, I think their father says, "Hey, you signed my son. I want him to move quick." But I think this new Marlins front office is a little bit more willing to push the younger guys that look like they could be pushed. And I think Kova's definitely a guy that could be pushed pretty quickly off of the complex and into low A.
Yeah, Kova. I know they really like Andres Falor as well, who has been decent in low A with Jupiter. And they've got some other guys like that. But it will be really interesting to see how they handle Kova and all that. I feel like it helps when you have that Florida State League right next door, like share the complex with your complex.
Exactly.
Like I worry about like a Seattle, right? It's okay. Here you go from the complex to Modesto. Maybe they're a little bit more timid to make that quick bump, but for teams that actually have their low A affiliate on the complex, and there's no, background information to this, like I would be curious to see if those teams are willing to push a little bit more, like the Yankees getting guys off the complex in Tampa and sending them to the Tampa Tarpons.
Yeah, no, I think that is a really good point, because the biggest adjustment I think is not necessarily on the field. It's
being a human being. It's being a grown ass person at 18 years old.
Exactly. And then you look at some of the recent draft guys, so that's kind of the next phase of players that I'm looking at too. JD Dix is a guy that I just think age-wise is probably going to get pushed a little bit quicker too. He's I feel weird saying like a little bit older, but he's going to be 20 at the end of the season. So I think that's just a guy that you're going to want to have at least getting a taste of low A. Diamondbacks switch hitting shortstop prospect to, I mean, if JD Dix gets off to a hot start this season, I mean, this could look like the best draft class in the early going with Arizona. But the limited action I've been able to see from Dix has been pretty impressive. Just a line drive swing that you can spray the ball to all fields comfortably from both sides. And I just think that's a recipe to climb quicker as a guy that's a little bit older. And then Tyson Lewis for the Reds, another shortstop, another guy that I think just has the ingredients to move quick. It's a sweet swing from the left side that's gotten better since he's gotten drafted. He's a good athlete. And another guy that, 19 years old, probably want to get him a taste of low A by the end of the season. And then Chase Harlan with the Dodgers, we just talked about him as a guy that I do really like. I think he was dealing with a little bit of a hip thing out of high school, so the Dodgers wanted to be a little bit slower with him, but they gave him $1 million over slot to sign him as that kind of next third base piece for them. And I think this is an exciting prospect that has a unique balance of hit and power that could allow him to climb quickly. And we was able to watch some on the backfields, and he controls the strike zone quite well, so I think that bodes well for him. And then a couple others, the duo for Pittsburgh, Levi Sterling on the mound. Talk about an easy, smooth delivery, and a guy that I think can move pretty quick and has projection, right? He's 6'5", 200 pounds. He's only 18, but he just fills up the zone. He has such a great feel for a trio of pitches, a pair of secondaries that, I mean, it's very impressive how a 6'5" righty can move the way that he does already. And I would almost say I have more confidence in him moving quicker than Sanford. But Wyatt Sanford, another shortstop, looks like he could be a guy that moves pretty quick as well. Another left-handed hitter that just has a nice operation and just does a lot of things well. And then the last guy is Humberto Cruz of the Padres. We're going to be doing Padres top prospects sooner rather than later. This kid he could be the next like exciting arm for them. He popped up a little bit later, stood out for, I believe it was Mexico's 18U team.
Okay.
And they signed him, and immediately looked like another potential pro or snipe there. He only threw 2 innings in the ACL last year, but the fastball was sitting 94, 95 with good run and ride at 17 years old. And now, so it'll be 18 for the entirety of the season. But I mean, if you've got this kid throwing mid-90s with good characteristics and a nasty slider, Preller is going to push him. There's no doubt about that.
I was going to ask you if Cash was cooking, and Cash Mayfield struggled a little bit, but struck out 15 and 9 in the third inning so far with Lake Elsinore. By the way, he's already 20 years old.
Yeah, Cash was very old for the class.
So he's going to stink, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, that's what the draft models say. If you're older for the class, you're doomed. Which is funny.
Me,
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, like for me, a high school guy, it's like, oh no, he's going to be 20 in his first full year of pro ball. with how far off all these guys like are in the grand scheme of a Major League Baseball team, why does it matter?
I think the reason why the model historically has like skewed that way is that in the past, I think it doesn't apply to the same degree now. And I honestly think that, and there's people, I would love to talk to some people in the front offices that are drafting, things like that have done this, because I think you were looking at it maybe 10, 15 years ago. It was kind of the grown man beating up on the younger players. So we talk about sometimes you see even in the DSL. But now everyone's so freaking good everywhere. Like, even if you have a year edge, I don't think it makes a huge difference. These guys are great. If you're performing in the prep, in the summer circuit, I don't care if you're like 19 and a half playing 18-year-olds. Like, those guys are throwing 95, 97. I think 15 years ago, there was a bigger gap between the average high school player and the top end guys, and especially the average player on the summer circuit and the top end guys. So like that's why I don't think the age thing matters as much. But in the past, yeah, it was probably a little bit of the like man among boys side of things.
Okay, I understand that element, but I was just like, like are we really gonna, hold on a guy who's gonna be 20 years old now with all of the information? And you're right. Like, I think I'm just a little skewed because I watch these All-American games and I watch these like, travel videos that Perfect Game is putting out. They're all hitting against 96 with arm side run.
That's the thing. So it's like, oh, he had 8 more months on this earth to be ready for that. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, that's so hard to hit. But again, it's a lot different nowadays than it was, I think even 10 years. Even when going back to when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Like, 90 meant something more. Like, everyone throws 90 now. It's just amazing how much that's changed. So I do think we're going to see the age matter a little bit less. And we've already kind of seen that. I mean, I know he was an underslot guy, but Dante Nori was like 20 on draft day. And that was a first round guy. So I think we might start to see teams, be more willing. And that could be a little value angle in there as well.
Yep. Okay. Last kind of amateur question. This is about later round pitching prospects, and it comes from Jose Marquez. Who are some later round pitching prospects from the 2024 draft you like to have a big year? And this is where you did your little research dive.
Yeah. This was a fun dive. I mean, we've got, look, this is where I needed to do it too, because we've barely been able to see some of these guys. Like, it's been limited action so far, and like the arms pop up left and right. But backfield's name, we talked about him in the Dodgers system. Brooks Auger.
Mm-hmm.
I really like what he's doing. Last start out was not good. 6 earned, but he went straight to high A as kind of a pop-up guy who had a kind of a wild progression. I think he was at community college initially, transferred to Mississippi State, then first year Mississippi State, I think, underwent Tommy John surgery. So then finally comes back in 2024, and that was his chance to kind of, I think, solidify himself as, a draft prospect, but he was a little bit older and, had not really had the track record as much. And he had to shake off some of the rust. He came back as a reliever in the early going of the year. And then they stretched him out a little bit more at the end. And second to last outing as a college arm against Mississippi, he goes 8 innings of 13 strikeout, 1-run ball. So really, really impressive path there and upswing. And then you get to the first year of pro ball, and I got to see him on the backfields. He went from sitting 93 to sitting 95, and just looks really comfortable and moves well on the mound. Good fastball characteristics. He might be more of a swingman type, but if we're talking about later round guys, I do like Brooks Auger a lot.
Cool. You got other names? Like, I found one name that I was like, okay, this is fun. I will give you,
Yeah, you want to give me your name first, and I'll go with my other 4?
I'll give you my name, and then you go with the other 4. Griffin Herring is the guy that jumped out. Griffin Herring was a 6th-round pick of the Yankees in 2024 at LSU. And the only reason I know about Herring is because he was awesome last year in college ball. He was a reliever. 50 1/3 innings, he struck out 67, had a 1.79 ERA. He makes 3 starts in Chatham out on the Cape Cod League. They're shorter starts, 10 2/3, but he allows 3 hits in 10 2/3. And then the Yankees take him in the 6th round. And the Yankees do their Yankee thing where they shut an arm down for the entirety of that season. And then he comes back out. And it's like, who is this cat?
Yeah.
In low A, Griffin Herring threw 4 starts, 23 1/3 innings, 12 hits, 1 earned run. That's a 0.39 ERA. And in 4 starts, this guy's throwing about 6 innings a start, 23 1/3 innings, and he struck out 28. I don't know much beyond that. All I know is that he's in the right organization. They went through the right process, and he's been really good in college and in professional baseball so far.
They're going to just keep taking arms is like a ton because what they're doing there, it's really impressive. I know it hasn't totally translated into like consistent homegrown big league arms just yet, but over the last 3 years, I've noticed just a huge shift there, and it's turned into a lot of trade capital for them. But Ben Hess has looked great out of the gate. Bryce Cunningham has looked great out of the gate, and then Herring, I mean, he's getting 18 inches of vert from an average release height, and he gets 7 feet of extension. So, I mean, that's going to get on guys a little bit quicker as a lefty there. They just seem to have all of these arms with great characteristics, and usually they have pretty good characteristics, but they identify guys who can spin the ball well or that I don't know what they look at. I'm sure there's certain things in the way that they move that they look at and say, that's a guy that in our program can unlock more. Hess unlocked even more vert. Cunningham unlocked, I think, a lot more like spin and spin efficiency and just looks really sharp that way. And Herring looks like he's getting a little bit more vert and also has that slider performing better as well. So I like that shout, and he has been great so far, and probably will be moving off of low A pretty quickly. A couple other like deeper cuts. Mason Marriott Diamondbacks system. He's off to a really good start as well, but I like the pitch mix. You've got a 4-seamer with some decent carry, but then you've got a banger curveball at about 80 miles per hour that is just racking up swings and misses. And I think you can just lean on those 2 pitches and have success. But he's already flashing a pretty good changeup as well that he's landing for a strike too. But it's just a combination of a fastball that's like 93, 95, and then you have that banger breaking ball that's like a power breaking ball and a feel for a changeup as well. Like that's a guy that I could see, being effective. And then Tyson Neighbors, he's a reliever, but what he's already doing in this Padres system is pretty crazy. And I think he's a guy that will definitely be pushed quickly. He's got an arsenal that I think actually could be stretched out multi-inning, but, we'll see what they decide to do. It's a mid-90s fastball that seems to be getting on hitters really quickly. A nasty upper 80s slider that can touch 90, and then a power curveball as well. So you got a pair of nasty secondaries and a fastball in the mid 90s. I mean, he has been dominating so far in high A, aside from, I mean, he gave up 1 earned run in 1 outing so far, but he has been lights out. 1 ERA, he struck out 16 and 8 2/3 innings so far.
You know what I'm going to say, right?
What?
Well, he's a reliever with that arsenal. You should put a thread together.
Yeah. You make him a starter.
Yeah, get him on Twitter, man.
Yeah, no, I actually like him sticking as a reliever, but I think he's a guy that
different background now, but I do want to tell you about the fine folks at Game Time before we move on to a lot of the kind of MLB-centric or upper levels of the minor league-centric questions in this mailbag, because Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Just Baseball show. Aram was a good friend. He invited me to Rufus Du Sol. He was not a good friend because he didn't tell me the tickets were through the roof, but I scanned those at Game Time. And if I'm not going to find a good deal for Rufus on Game Time, I'm just not going to that concert. So I will not be going to that concert, but there are so many elements of Game Time that we absolutely love. The all-in pricing toggle feature is my favorite. The views from your seat, you have an idea of what you're going to be seeing at time of checkout. You also have the flash zone deals through Game Time picks that are just exceptional. There is so much to love with Game Time. And a reminder that you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, list goes on. Game Time picks makes last minute ticket buying easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium. Of course, your zone deals, your all-in pricing. How about the lowest price guarantee? Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find something cheaper. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and you use code JUSTBASEBALL. All caps, one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code JUSTBASEBALL, JUSTBASEBALL, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
You could use don't rule it out yet. You might get a flash deal right before. You might. So from the broadcast booth, maybe you check like an hour before, see if a flash deal pops up, and maybe you can join us.
Like you think it's just like more than 3x, I think, what you paid, which is what scares me a little.
I know it did go up a lot. They're popular. I'm a big fan, but I didn't realize like how popular they are. But it does make sense. Like that, it is a wide net there of a lot of people that are gonna gravitate towards that genre. But we got what, 4 more questions?
We got a couple more questions, and this one is a really good one about, possible bounce back candidates. And this one comes to us from SMH. Who are some guys that have had their initial debut but since been optioned that you think have the potential to get the call up and make a big bounce back? There were a couple of names that jumped to the forefront of my mind, but you had 2 that like immediate knee jerk. You said this guy was optioned, but he's going to be good on the comeback. And there was one guy that was really good before he was optioned.
Yeah. Thomas Ajazi would be like the low hanging fruit. He was good before he got optioned, as you said, but they don't have ABs for him right now, which I don't totally understand, but I also understand at the same time. So if he's not going to be playing every single day, might as well send him to AAA where he can keep getting the reps. But like this guy was mashing at the big league level, so that part's kind of weird. So I'd imagine when you bring him back up, he's going to be good. So Sajazi was the obvious one, and then you had mentioned, and I would have been so pissed if I forgot, Nick York has got to be the other option. I mean, that's a guy that we thought should have probably broke camp with the team, or like should have been on that opening day roster. Wasn't. I know he's not lighting it on fire to start the season in AAA, but I'm just not really worried about that. I love what I saw from him at the end of the year in AAA. I love what I saw from him at the big league level and a shorter sample, and just the ability to kind of play all over. He hits the ball hard. We talked about the approach and where it's at. It's just a guy that I think at the very least is going to be a great utility piece for a lineup that stinks, to be honest. Like I'm surprised, even with him not being great out of the gate in AAA, that they don't get him some opportunity at the big league level. But that's a guy that I do think is going to be solid when he gets a crack again.
Yeah, I think so. And there's so much defensive versatility there. Like, okay, say you feel all right about what's going on at second base, just slap York in left or right and like have him play there. Like there are spots to be had in this Pirate lineup right now, and I'm a little surprised that York and Billy Cook haven't taken any of them just yet. And oh, by the way, this isn't just a prospect show. This is a minor league podcast. Have you seen Nick Solak's numbers in AAA?
No, let me look right now.
Solak is absolutely right now. Yeah, do you have him in front of you?
Yes, and the data is insane.
Wait, what are the standard numbers for Solak?
Oh, 394, 431, 652 slash line. It's 1,082 OPS, 5 homers in 18 games already.
Yeah, dude, he's killing right now.
Gosh, a 57 or 56% hard hit rate.
Yeah.
He's torching balls.
He might just need to be a Pirate by the end of this week.
I mean, you take whatever you can get. He is torching balls. Yeah, that who would have thought?
But shout out to Nick Solak.
Yeah.
You also mentioned Matt Shaw with the Cubs, and like that makes a lot of sense. And Shaw is back in the fold in a matter of days, I think, or weeks. You dealt with the whole Gage Workman, Vidal Brujan thing over the last week, and that's the latest saga of the Cubs' third base plans.
Yeah, and I understand that Shaw was not good, and you want to maybe prioritize those reps for, if he's not playing every day, same thing. Like you might as well send him to AAA to get himself right a little bit. Sure. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more runway from him. Like it's so early in the season, you can afford to have your one hitter in what is one of the best lineups in Major League Baseball this year struggling a little bit. Like it's not like with Workman, they end up moving off him because he was struggling defensively too. Yeah. So like that part, even though I thought that was tough to only have a handful of at-bats and then get bumped out. He wasn't fielding well. He had 4 errors and a couple were catastrophic as Cubs fans had pointed out to me. So that part I get, but Shaw was fine defensively. So I thought he could have earned a little bit, and he was walking a little bit. Like he could have earned a little bit more time there. But maybe there was something specific they wanted him to work on in a controlled environment. And the first couple games back in AAA, they weren't great. So usually that might be a guy just kind of tweaking and trying to get himself right. And then the last couple games, he's been awesome. He has 4 hits in his last 2 games, a homer, a double. He's not striking out at all. I think, what's kind of lost in the Shaw situation is he had the oblique issue, and it wiped out his entire spring training for the most part. And then he went straight out to, across the entire world to go play in Japan. for the opener. As like that was already kind of weird for most players, especially if you're a rookie and making your MLB debut. But that's also even more weird for a guy who didn't really have a normal spring and then kind of got thrown into the fire. So I don't think there was a lot of opportunity to get rhythm for him. Now he's going to get that rhythm in AAA. That'll be his quote-unquote spring training, and I think he gets back up there with some momentum and starts swinging it well again.
Yeah. There were 3 more people that jumped out to me. One of them is Tyler Black with the Milwaukee Brewers. Tyler Black is out for the next, I think, 3 weeks or so with a hamate issue. He ran into that hamate thing this spring, but Tyler Black, once he gets back from that hamate, it feels like the Brewers are just kind of waiting for Rhys Hoskins to expire and waiting for like some other guys.
He's heating up though, which is the crazy part.
I know, but like I don't mean expire in terms of on-field performance. I mean expire in terms of contractually, and I think he's done after this year.
Yes.
And it's a lot like the guy that I'm about to bring up. I'll bring him up right now, actually. Jordan Lawler with the Diamondbacks. Like, Geno Suarez has 10 homers, right? He had that 4-homer game. But Lawler's OPSing 1,100 in AAA. There's just no everyday at-bats available for Jordan Lawler at this point, especially with Ketel Marte starting a rehab assignment a few days ago. So you're kind of waiting for Geno to get out of the fold, and Lawler is your everyday third baseman because you extended Perdomo.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same deal, I feel like, with Black in Milwaukee. And you could do the Tyler Black thing in exchange for Oliver Dunn or like that hodgepodge of guys that you have on the bench, but is there a route to everyday ABs? I think the answer is no right now. So when Black comes back, I feel like he's just going to shred Nashville and be ready to go whenever his name gets called.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that hamate was affecting him last year a little bit too, because you saw the EVs down slightly. He was still very solid and productive, but I wouldn't surprise me if that was something that was kind of, ticking time bomb to a degree. And I just, even when it was not the best year for him, just everything still looks so good. When you look under the hood and at the data and the swing decisions and everything, it's just the floor is so high for him. Of course, you'd like to see a little bit more defensive versatility. The one thing that's interesting is Ernesto Martinez, who's in AAA and is absolutely killing, is a first baseman as well and a left-handed hitter. And I don't think he's on the 40, though, so I think Black would have the inside track there. But Ernesto Martinez, the data is insane. Not 90th percentile exit velocity, it's 18 games, but 90th percentile exit velocity, 111 miles per hour. I think that would be up there with the top 5 hitters in Major League Baseball. Contact rates that are well above average and a chase rate below 20%. The big 3 there is crazy. He's a 6'6" left-handed hitter who doesn't punch. So where does he potentially fit in too with Hoskins not performing as well? I don't know. I think if the Brewers really believe in Ernesto Martinez, it's hard not to when you're looking at the data and what he's doing. Maybe Tyler Black is a trade candidate for them to potentially secure some more pitching. And then that's a guy that
we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Caleb Durbin's name. Like, I totally blanked on Durbin getting everyday reps at third base too.
Yep. Like, it's crowded. I think Tyler Black fits this answer, but maybe even for a different team, because there's a lot of teams, especially if you're rebuilding, that's a guy that you're pumped to just be putting out there, getting everyday reps and watching him develop into what'll very likely be an above average offensive piece for you with, some sneaky ability to steal some bags and do some other things.
I've got one more for you. We're going to see a better Zebby in the big leagues in 2025.
I like that.
Zebby Matthews was 2 around the strike zone, and then he got a little timid. Zebby Matthews in 37 2/3 innings with Minnesota last year walked 11 because he got nervous. He allowed 11 homers in 37 2/3 innings. But in the minor leagues last year, this guy was one of, if not, a top 5 pitcher in minor league baseball. 97 innings, he struck out 114 and walked 7. He's already walked 7 in 23 1/3. But it's been borderline better. Zebby Matthews, 23 1/3, he struck out 29. Opponents are hitting under 200 against him. He has yet to allow a homer, and he's got a 1.93 ERA through 5 starts. I do think that we're going to see a slightly more precise Zebby Matthews and less over the heart of the plate, and I do think we're going to get a better big league version of Zebby Matthews at some point for the Twins this year.
And if you're around the zone too much, at the end of the day, it can be a problem. And if your fastball jumps a tick, which it has again this year, he was a big uptick guy last year, jumping another tick can help you get away with being, missing middle a little bit more. And so he's averaging 97 miles per hour this year, which at last year he was 95.7, which was significantly up from the year before where he was 93.9. So, if you have a problem with being around the zone, I do think he's executing better too. But it's also nice to, sometimes I'm around the middle of the plate too much, or maybe I'm throwing too many strikes. Well, it's better when you're throwing too many strikes at 97, 98 than 95, 96. So he's in a good spot there. But it's also the slider is now 89 instead of like 87, 86. And that cutter is 92 on average. And that is just a tough pitch for guys too. I think that's a great shout as a guy that, will get up there and be a lot more sound and confident in the zone. And I think also just, pick up more whiffs as well. He hasn't allowed a home run yet. Like in 5 starts in AAA, like that's got to be the biggest thing. It's like, it's not only that he's limiting the hard contact, he hasn't even allowed a home run. And I know that was part of the issue as well at points, when he was struggling.
Again, it was a serious issue. 11 homers in under 40 innings of work last year in the major leagues. Like that was a major issue, and it's mitigated a little bit here.
Yeah.
But we'll go to the next question. This one is from jscotch_2. Who is a guy the industry hasn't caught up on yet? Maybe someone who's not in top 100s, but will be by midseason. For example, I remember you being first on Jesus Mate. The real ones remember Aram being first on Ellie De La Cruz. And maybe James Wood as well, like just pushing James Wood to unbelievable heights before he actually did this. And I know it was 19-5, but don't sleep on the 111 the other way from James Wood. He does that every single night.
Doesn't count unless he pulls it.
So he's only in 2 homers so far.
Yeah.
One of them was 116 or whatever.
Did you see the one he did pull?
Yeah, dude, it was massacre. That was 116 and like 450.
And it was up and in. Like, he can pull. He just doesn't need to. So why try to sell out to do so? Why manipulate your path to be more pull dependent if you can go the other way on a line 111 and leave the yard? That way now he has a wider margin for error, where if he's out front, then he's going to still be able to pull the ball in the air, gone. Like,
you know why? The data losers like you need to see him do it. Air pull is so low.
I like looking at those numbers.
Yeah, you love it, dork.
You got to find the exceptions to the rule, and that's definitely an exception to the rule there. But no, I appreciate the shout on Mate and of course Ellie. But I think, and I'm already seeing some people get excited about him. But it's funny, another Brewers prospect, Luis Pena, looks like he could be an absolute monster, and probably a guy that is going to have a lot of helium in the next couple months. He had an incredible DSL last year, but the power was bottom of the scale at that point, or at least lower end, and he was more speedy and looking more like a bat to ball speedy type of middle infielder. But now he and this is why it's so hard to write definitive reports on 17-year-olds. He's 18 now, and all of a sudden he's grown into the way more impact and skips the complex. And so far in low A, through 13 games, he's hitting 333, 409, 491. He's absolutely crushing balls. And, it's doubles to both gaps. He hit a no-doubter pull side that I think left the bat at like 108. The hard hit rate's been solid. The approach is solid. He can absolutely fly. Like, this is a player that, especially if the defense continues to come along at shortstop, should be another really dynamic prospect. And that Carolina Mudcats team, like, it could end up, when we look back on it, being one of the most talented lower-level teams we've ever seen. Between him, you got Eric Batanti, who's another guy that I think could fit that bill as, he's top 100 for us, could end up flying up the ranks for a lot of others. Of course, you have Jesus Mate. You have Braylon Payne, who's another guy that I do think is in that boat where he's going to be on our top 100 update most likely. I love Braylon Payne. He just missed on our preseason list. And then, Luis Pena as well. I don't have any Brewers bias, I promise. They're just really freaking good at this thing. And I love what we're seeing from Payne. That was a guy that was a slash and dash kind of hitter out of high school. He's a 70 runner. And by slash and dash, it's more of that like flat swing, and they're almost kind of moving out of the box. Those are not guys that are going to have much power. The Brewers already worked on his swing mechanics. He's using the ground better, and he's popping home runs 110 now. With his speed and defensive ability in center field, that guy could be a star. Pena, with what he's added, he could be a star. 12 bags already, too. Those two guys immediately looking like, I think those are going to be consensus top 100 guys, but Pena is the one where I think we could see him have maybe not quite a Jesus Mate rise, but a pretty significant rise.
Okay. I see. You say that about the Carolina Mudcats. I will say, I remember saying the same thing about the 2022 Eugene Emeralds with Jairo Pomares, among others. And it is working out right now. I just looked up the 2022 Eugene Emeralds. Pat Bailey played 83 games for them. Works. Hunter Bishop was there. Vaughn Brown, that's when he was just amazing. But Luciano played 57 games for them. Luis Matos played 92 games for them. Grant McCrae played for them. Casey Schmidt played for them. And then pitching-wise, Mason Black, Kyle Harrison, Trevor McDonald, Landon Roop, Randy Rodriguez. Randy Rodriguez, the starter at the time. Keaton Wynn was there as well. So that's a pretty loaded high A team. So we didn't get it totally wrong.
No.
We just kind of got it wrong with the guys. It was the 2022 Eugene Emeralds, the 2024 Modesto Nuts, Seattle's low A last year with Montes, Colt Emerson, Farmelo, and Ty Pete. And then now it's the 25 Carolina Mudcats.
Farmelo actually about to make his return, just got added back to the roster. So very pumped on that. I think it was earlier than people were expecting. So that's electric. Yeah, that team is up there, but it also shows you, like, especially at the lower levels, how things can kind of go the wrong way when you think, oh, this is can't miss, this team's incredible, and a lot of the prospects don't end up where you maybe hoped. But I also think that it hits home to maybe the Giants not being the best in developing over the last few years. The Mudcats, by the way, they have a 402 team on base percentage so far this year.
Yeah, and the fellas are raking.
They're only striking out 21% of the time.
Yeah.
And Pena, by the way, 7.5% strikeout rate. So, the fellas are absolutely raking.
And
those are a couple.
I think they're the youngest team in the league by far.
They have to be. They have to be because Mate just turned 18. Batanti's 19. You have Filippo Dutturi, who's 19. Braylon Payne's still 18. Pena's still 18. Yeah, this is an extremely young team. That's
I'll tell you right now, average age Carolina League. Yeah, Carolina is the youngest. Salem is the second youngest, the Salem Red Sox. The Frednats, the Fredericksburg Nationals, have an average hitter age of 21.7 years old. Carolina's at 19.5 years old.
That's absolutely absurd.
There you go.
They're building something pretty impressive there. And then Slade Caldwell is probably another one for me. I was just watching the video last night, ironically, just combing through the at-bats. And, that was a preseason top 100 guy for us. He's still just 18 years old, by the way, as well. So younger for the class. And the Diamondbacks, just the fact that they were able to get Waldschmidt and Caldwell, the floor is so high because he's a plus runner who can absolutely go get it in center field. He's struggled a little bit so far with fastballs in the zone, like at the top of the zone. He's been swinging and missing because it's, I think, a little bit of an uphill path at times. But the bat speed is so freaking crazy and it's so short and compact and direct. He sprays line drives all over the field. He makes elite swing decisions already. He's only chasing like 12% of the time. And even though he's very small, naturally he's going to grow into more strength. And he's already hitting the ball decently hard. So I think this is a guy that when you look at the patience and the defensive ability and the speed and the bat speed, I imagine he's going to be someone that is maybe a consensus top 100 prospect by midseason as well. Same with Charlie Soto of the Twins. And we talked about him when we did the Twin system, but this is a totally different Charlie Soto from last year, who was really a Charlie Soto that was viewed as extremely raw, work in progress, very young for the class, converted shortstop at the end of his high school career, and more of just kind of a thrower at that point. Now you're looking at him, the arsenal is much more optimized. The four-seamer's riding. He still has the sinker. It's one of the better feels for a changeup you're going to find from a teenage prospect. His slider is an improved offering. Like, this is a really impressive young arm here. And I think when you're looking at what Soto's already done so far this season, and what I think he could potentially continue to blossom into now that he's got more ride with the four-seamer. You have an athlete on the mound. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. He has a 1.38 ERA through his first three appearances so far this year. I love that he was able to find a four-seamer with more ride, and now you get to see that changeup really work off of it. I think he's going to be a problem for hitters. And by the way, also on top of that, characteristics are better, and the fastball velocity's up almost 2 ticks. He's sitting 97.5.
Looks bigger. Yeah, it looks like he's put like good weight on. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I think this guy is going to carve. And you can say what you want about the Twins. One thing you can't take away from them, they do develop arms pretty well. And I think Soto is maybe the most talented template they've had in a while.
Cool beans. All right, math question for you. This comes from fellow Oak Parker, Sean Donahue. How much of a carrying tool can a 70 glove at a premium defensive spot be? If you had 125 grading points on plate discipline, hit, and power, how would you, quote unquote, spend them to build an ideal glove first prospect? Hope this question makes sense. It makes sense. It's just above my pay grade, but it's in Arm's pay grade. So you go.
It's like a puzzle. I was actually really struggling because,
It's like build your team with $15. LeBron's $5.
Yeah. And 125 was a perfectly difficult number. First, to answer the first part of the question, like a 70 glove can do you wonders. We see it all the time where
at a premium spot too.
Like at a premium spot, and even not we're seeing 70 gloves at like second base get guys paid. But when you look at it from like a premium spot, I go to like a Dalton Varsho, right? And like Varsho last year was not good offensively at all. I mean, I guess it wasn't as bad as it looks on the surface level slash line. It was a 99 WRC plus, but it was a 214, 293, 407 slash line. And in 136 games, he was a 3.3 F4 player. He did leave the yard 18 times. That helps. But I mean, like that side of it, I think says a lot. You look at, trying to think of some other like very obvious. I think of Dansby Swanson. Right? Like I don't know if the glove is full foot. It's probably close to that in terms of the defensive value you're getting out of him.
Yeah.
If he's a league average defender, or a league average hitter, which he was last year, 99 WRC plus, he's a 4-1 player every year. Yeah. And that's exactly what he was last year as well.
Yeah.
242, 312, 390 slash line, and he was a 4.3 F4.
I think a good example is Stott at second base. I think Bryson Stott is one where it's like that guy, mid-level. I think Varsho and Stott are very similar in the value that they provide. And I think Varsho is probably a little bit more offensive potential in him than Bryson Stott does. Yeah. But like Stott, Turang, now Turang's a legit 80 grade defender at second base, and that's why he won a platinum glove. But Stott is an interesting one because I would have no problem if my favorite team gave him $8 million on a 1-year free agent deal. I would have no problem if they gave him a 3-year, $24 million contract when he hits the open market, because he is a very, very good defender at second base. He can play a good shortstop if he's there, and he hits enough. Like the 125 points are allocated well enough.
Yeah. And that's the hard part too, right? It's okay, where do you allocate these points? And that's the next part of it. But I would say, how much can a 70 glove carry you to premium spot? I would say significantly. I don't know what the floor would necessarily be, but like, let's say you're a shortstop or a center fielder. Of course, those are two positions where you could have superstars, and that's where people are always going to undervalue the glove first guys out there. But like, I was trying to think of like what the floor could be of what's palatable for a guy to start out there and be glove first. And it's probably what Jacob Young did last year, where he was 85 WRC plus, which is about as low as I think you can go for a regular and justify it. But 2.5 win player, 33 bags, and doing some of the little things as well. So like, that's probably the example of how much it can carry you. It can carry a guy like Jacob Young into an everyday role.
Yeah.
But is Jacob Young playing center field for a first division team? Maybe, if they're loaded everywhere else. So that's kind of the push and pull. It's a little dependent on team circumstance as well. But scattering the points, I tried so many different ways, because it's 125 is really difficult because, okay, you have a 70 glove. There's a lot of different ways where you can satisfy what you need offensively. And I think it also depends on the player. Is he a speedster? But I thought for the sake of the conversation here, we're saying average speed.
Yeah.
I leaned towards, this is what I settle on, 55 hit, 30 power, 40 plate discipline. And I'll explain why. If I add anywhere to anywhere else, you got to subtract from somewhere else as well, right? So if I wanted to go 60 hit really badly, but then you're pulling plate discipline below fringe and you're pulling power to the bottom of the scale, potentially one or the other. On top of that, I think swing decisions so for plate discipline, I think that's a huge separator for a power guy. So I was thinking, okay, well, what if we go 60 power and 50 plate discipline. That's not enough to offset a hit tool that's going to be bottom of the barrel there. So that's where it's tough, because it's like you look at an Emmanuel Rodriguez, he's 70 power, 70 plate discipline. There's a chance that hit tool could be 30 at the big league level, and it's going to work because the power and the plate discipline's so elite. The other side, Jacob Wilson is a 70 hitter. He's 30 power, maybe a little bit more than that now, which he's flashing, but it's also probably 30 plate discipline. He swings at everything, but it doesn't matter because he's a 70 hitter. Like, if you make contact outside of the zone at elite rates, you can get away with it, especially when you can maneuver the barrel and poke it all over the map. That's the same thing with Arias. But with 125 points, couldn't set it up that way. So that's why when I look at it, where if you don't have a standout tool, I think the priority needs to be, I do generally lean towards batted ball quality. And the harder you hit the ball, the better off you're going to be, generally speaking, no matter what archetype you are. Yeah. But if we went 60 power here, you'd still have fringy hit and fringy plate discipline. And if your plate discipline isn't offsetting the fringy hit, or vice versa, you're not going to get into that power enough. So for me, it was above average hit, not bottom of the barrel power. So at least, you're hitting the ball hard enough to find the gaps, leave the yard, maybe 8-10 times. And then the plate discipline's not good, but it's not going to derail you at 40 grade, where that's like probably 27-28% chase. You're getting away with it, but it's not going to fully unravel you. So that's not the best hitter in the world, but funny enough, it's kind of Dansby Swanson-ish. I would say Swanson has a little bit more power, obviously, but he hit 16 home runs last year. He hit 242. So maybe you're getting a little bit more hit and a little bit less power. I'm trying to think of the player that would fit that bill the best, of who would be the 55 hit, 30 power, 40 plate discipline. It's kind of hard to find an exact example right now, but maybe what Volpe did last year, to be honest. I would say maybe something close to what Volpe did last year would probably be an example of that. And again, that was a 3.5 win player.
Yeah. So I go 80 juice and then 20 hit and 20 plate discipline, and you can keep the other 5.
You can keep the 5.
That's good.
You go Chris Carter. Well, yeah, but here's the thing: is if it's 80 juice and 20 hit, but he's if you had Chris Carter, but he's an elite defender, what does that look like? It's Joey Gallo.
It's Joey Gallo.
Yeah. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah, but Gallo signed a 1-year, $11 million deal when the writing was on the wall because people were still bought into that.
Exactly. So it just shows you. But I would say the Volpe archetype is the one that guy is so overhated. It's overhated.
Well, it's a shame he's a bust at 23. It's just a shame.
It's so nuts to me.
I will say I'm kind of doing the same thing with Jordan Walker right now, though. But Volpe's good. Walker
is 122 WRC plus.
Yeah, Volpe's actually good, and he's hated. Walker actually hasn't been good, and I'm starting to get a little nervous.
I hear that, and Walker has to mash, whereas clearly Volpe doesn't have to mash. If he's better than an 86 WRC plus, if he's better than 243, 293, 364 this year, he would be better than a 3.5 win player, assuming he matches the defense.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that guy gets, the pushback or whatever that he gets.
Yeah. All right. Last one for you. It has to do with Travis Bazzana, the number 1 overall pick of the Cleveland Guardians. And this one comes to us from Jackson M on Discord. Do you think the Guardians regret taking Travis Bazzana at 1-1? Are you concerned at all with where his game currently is? I don't think they should regret it. We're 4 months into the process, 4 months of baseball time into the process. Are there some guys that have hit the ground running a bit quicker? Yeah, absolutely. Hertz is in the big leagues at this point. Burns looks amazing. There are some guys that are phenomenal that are hitting the ground running, but do you think the Tigers regret the Max Clark choice? I don't think so at this point. They got McGonigal as well. The Guardians saved some money on Bazzana. It's way too early to say, we might have made the wrong decision with what you knew about Bazzana going into the draft process.
Yeah, and it's not like he's had a Charlie Condon, start to his pro career, who's hurt now, so it's unfair. But, when he looked so rough out of the gate that I think you could say, okay, I don't know. What I think is interesting, and this is, again, why it's so hard to scout, amateur hit tool and things like that is, this is a guy who's branded as can't miss bat to ball, right? Like, and right now it's not bad, but he's power over hit right now. If you're looking at the batted ball data, I know he only has 1 home run, but it's 3 triples and a double, but it's 105 mile per hour, 90th percentile, and he's striking out 27% of the time. My thing with Bazzana is it's like, who do you want to be? And I know that he's a competitor and he wants to be the best player he can possibly be, and he's hell-bent on getting every drop of his potential power out. But I think in the process of trying to do that, yeah, he's, I think, getting away from himself a little bit. The swings get too big. The operation gets too loud. And you have twitch, you have strength, you have bat speed, you have frame-defying pop.
Yeah.
Even if you're trying to get into it like crazy or not. But I'd almost rather see him lean into his elite plate discipline, and it is a great feel to hit that I think is being undermined by him trying to get this A++ swing off. And you look at the videos of him training, you know, at Driveline and, you know, just like taking Mammo hacks, which, you know, they're tracking things and trying to figure out, you know, just how to optimize his body the most to tap into the most power. That's great. But like, I don't know. I think Travis Bazzana at his best is a little bit more hitterish. But to answer the question more directly, like, I don't think they regret it. We talked about it though around the time of the draft, and like, I think if the money was equal, I was taking Bazzana. But if you could save even a few bucks, like I thought the difference between Weatherholt and Bazzana was so razor thin,
negligible, yeah,
that I would save a few extra bucks and take Weatherholt. And I think that could be the one way. I don't know what the conversations were, but like, let's say that Weatherholt said I'd take the Bazzana deal.
Yeah.
Then maybe you could regret that a little bit. But who knows? Bazzana, something could click and it progresses from there. But I think you do see better bat to ball out of the gate from Weatherholt, and actually a little bit more juice from Bazzana. But
yeah,
with this archetype of player, I'd rather have the guy whose bat to ball is immediately translating, because it's not like Weatherholt swinging a wet noodle either. He's got a hard hit rate of 43% and 90th percentile of 103.5.
Right. So here's the whole deal with Bazzana. Like, I think you cannot call Bazzana a, you know, regrettable pick.
No.
When you take 1.7 and you overpay Joey Oakey 1.1. Like, that's the puzzle of the MLB draft. And I just had a great conversation with the Marlins director of amateur scouting, Frankie Polari, who came over from Seattle. And he referred to the MLB draft as a puzzle. And we've talked about that being a puzzle all the time. And it's a puzzle because the Bazzana pick, if it were the NBA draft, like, you can assess that pick in a vacuum. You know, why'd they go with this guy when, like, they could have had the same guy, or they could have had a different guy, the same exact slot value, and, you know, he would have, you know, been on this team, yada, yada, yada. You cannot assess the Bazzana pick without also assessing the Joey Oakey pick.
Yep.
You cannot assess the Henry Davis pick without assessing the Bubba Chandler pick.
Yep.
Like, it's all a math problem. 1 through 10, rounds 1 through 10 is all an equation. It's all how you balance out. And I think that you got to give the draft class in its entirety some time.
And I think, again, and hindsight's always going to be 20/20. I think the only way you could regret it is if Weatherholt could be had at the same number, because I agree with you wholeheartedly that, well, Joey Oakey's another one of those guys that I think could be, it's a little bit more ambitious, but I think could be a top 100 candidate if he has a strong start off the complex. And that's definitely a guy that's going to pitch his way, to circle back to the second question or third question, pitch his way off the complex pretty quickly. It's crazy stuff. That's why they gave him, you know, so much overslot. And then Braylon Doty, like, that was another guy that they were I think needed to, you know, meet a certain price to be able to sign, and they were able to sign both those guys. Those are two really, really exciting arms that, you know, I think they probably weren't able to get if they don't save some money on Bazzana there. So I don't think there's any world where you regret it. And also, like, Bazzana's going to be a big leaguer regardless. Like, it's how good is it? More of a bulk platoon guy that, you know, can hit you 15 and steal 20? Like, maybe. Is it a little bit less than that? Maybe. Is it a little bit more than that? Maybe. But I think you're going to see a guy that's going to be playing in the big leagues one way or another. And that makes it kind of hard to regret or say you did anything wrong there, especially when you did have savings that you were able to apply. But just to, like, illustrate a little bit more on Bazzana and kind of the start so far, I think the biggest thing for him has just been that he has seen a lot of lefties out of the gate. And the leg kick is so big and he swings so hard that I think it's harder for him to stay closed on lefties. And for whatever reason, he's had 89 plate appearances, and already 30 of them are against lefties. It's a little bit more than I think normally you'd see proportionally. And against lefties, he's a 551 OPS. Against righties, he has an 815 OPS. So I think that's affecting him a little bit in this process too. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, he's in Double-A already. And that's a big adjustment for college guys. And I think we've gotten a little spoiled with some of these players being able to climb and fly extremely quickly. He was playing in the Pac-12. Like he wasn't playing in the SEC. He did have some trouble here and there. I think there's a little bit more development to be had for a Bazzana maybe than people want to expect from a college bat of his archetype. Sometimes it's okay if he's a little bit more station to station. That doesn't mean he's not going to achieve his potential.
You know, we're going to have this conversation every year, right? Because last year it was Dylan Cruz. This year it's going to be Bazzana. Like next year it could be Laviolette. Like we have no idea who we're going to have the conversation about, but we're going to have the conversation about that. A top 10 pick, a top 5 pick that is in Double-A. He's only in Double-A 6 months after he was drafted. What's going on? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Yes, everything's okay. This is how baseball worked more than 3 years ago.
Yeah. We've gotten quite spoiled, and we want the immediate validation on our draft picks, especially the number 1 guy. So I get it, and I know that it puts more pressure if you're a fan when you see JJ doing what he's doing, but he could hit a wall too. Like it happens. That said, more of a testament to how insane JJ has been. Just to close out here, 12 games, 333, 431, 479 /line for Weatherhole, 15% chase. I mean, it has been really fun to watch him do his thing. He's only struck out 6 times, and he's walked 6 times in 58 plate appearances. So Weatherhole looks awesome, but again, Bazzana works so hard too. They also invested in the work ethic and the makeup, and I'm going to bet on that, any day of the week. I know Weatherhold's kind of cut from a similar cloth too, but Bazzana might be a psycho in the best way possible. So like anything that he needs to figure out, I have confidence that he's going to continue to figure that out and develop. Maybe that means he has to hang out in Double-A a little bit longer.
Yep. That's our mailbag.
That's it. And again, if you want to be able to ask some questions in the next mailbag or just be able to ask prospect questions at all, you can always do that, but I can guarantee that I'll be able to answer those in our Discord. I'm doing that all the time. The link to join the Discord's in the episode description. It's the best way to support us too. Really appreciate that. All the write-ups and everything, and no paywall on justbaseball.com. We're never going to change that. But there's a way for us to, be able to continue to build what we're doing here at Just Baseball. And it's been really fun being able to connect with the audience and kind of just know what you guys want out of the shows and also just be able to communicate with you. So the link is in the episode description. Also a lot of giveaways, breaks, box breaks, other stuff that is so much fun, and live Q&As in there. So check it out. We're going to have a prospect interview later this week with a guy who is shoving right now in Double-A. I think should be in Triple-A very soon. And we will also have Red Sox top prospects coming up after that at the end of the week as well. So always thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.